Hello, good late morning. I'm Rozlyn Downer, Roz Downer, Mason City, Nebraska, although we're at beautiful Lake Wakanda, Glen Elder Dam here this weekend with a great little get together. I wanted to introduce myself just a little bit, my credentials, so you know that I'm not just saying something that I don't know anything about. I have been a mental health practitioner for many years. I retired 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago now. It's 1st of September, it's 10 years ago. And I went to college for 7 years to get the Master of Science degree. It's a certified professional counselor, licensed independent mental health practitioner, and a licensed drug and alcohol counselor. So, and I did that for about 23 years. So I do know something about mental health. I've had thousands of clients, groups, been to the prisons in Nebraska. I used to go to the jail in Broken Bow every week. Broken Bow, Nebraska, Custer County, Nebraska. That's where I live. And so I have a little, this is my notes. Can't hardly see it, but a few things written on an envelope with a pencil. I wanted to talk a little bit about childhood mental health issues as I see Donald Trump. I have read everything I could find about him. I've watched all the documentaries, I've read books, and I actually have known about him for 30 years because we studied him in college and diagnosing in master's programs with the DSM because he fit the diagnosis of, at that time they called it not antisocial like they do now, but he was a sociopath, and before that a psychopath in the original DSM that I studied under. Also, he's very much a narcissist and has been. Anybody that get out a DSM, go online and look, and you will see every one of the criteria is him. So he's severe. But as a child, he was also mentally ill. His problems started at about 4 or 5 years old, as far as I can tell. His parents could not control him, and at age 13, they sent him to military school. But before that, he did things like hitting teachers, ruining his brothers and sisters' toys. If you look back in some of that, his mother tells about how he glued his little brother's blocks together so he couldn't play with them anymore. And if you look into oppositional defiant disorder or conduct disorder, that's the main two childhood disorders that are severe. And those are the kids that go on to be these personality disorders that he is. Severe. It's the worst that it can be for anybody, and it's generally males. Anyway, he went to military school at 13, and they kind of straightened him out a little bit, and he actually became a leader there. He loved it because he had people under him that he could force them to do what he wanted. They used physical discipline there. They could beat on each other, and they did. He liked that. He got to beat on the underclassmen. So one of the things that I saw said that he said that was one of his first experiences of being knocked around as much as he was. The commandant there was also a very abusive man. So Donald got a good background in everything that he did. The other thing is his dad, Fred Trump, was extremely abusive, and I think that he was also a sociopath. He didn't mind hurting other people, anything to get to the top. One of the things that it's noted in a lot of the stuff that you read and see is he told Donald, as a young guy, you have to be a killer. He taught him to be a killer, and he wasn't talking about murdering someone. He was talking about business deals and do anything to get to the top. It doesn't matter who you cheat, who you abuse, who you knock down, the names you use, or anything else. And there's a whole history of Donald cheating people throughout his whole business career, starting young, not paying his contractors. Just like now, he still goes to these venues and he doesn't pay them. That's not in my notes. So that's the childhood. I believe that he was oppositional, defiant. He would not mind anyone, disrespected everybody, and then the conduct disorder of how you act. His mom was sick a lot when he was a little kid, like from 2 to 4. She had very little interaction with him. And so when all you have is this dad that's teaching you all these bad things, that's what you're going to do. That's what personality disorders are. It becomes your personality. And once your personality is formed, everything I've ever read said by about 4 or 5, your personality is basically formed. You can't change it. That's why personality disorders are treatable, but they're not curable. So Donald will never be anything other than what he is right now, except worse. It gets more progressive the older you get. And you can see that if you look back at all of his stuff. He's much more blatant, much more outspoken. He does not care what he says and does, and everybody seems to love it the worse he gets. So young adulthood. I already said I think his dad was a sociopath, and he just didn't have the notoriety that Donald does, but he did there. He was in Queens, and he built a lot of slum apartments there. Donald felt unloved. He has said that. His niece, Mary, who's written books about him, she has a podcast. She talks about him a lot. She knows the family history. She knows what happened with her dad and the way he was treated, the way she's been treated, just the family dynamics. I've seen her say that money, greed, that's all that family cares about. That's what they're based on. And that's because his dad and his dad that came from Germany. Okay. Donald's entire life, he has, as an adult, he has been a narcissist and a sociopath. Again, DSM, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. If you just put narcissistic personality disorder, or nowadays, it's not a psychopathic personality disorder or sociopathic anymore. They water everything down. It's antisocial personality disorder. Look them up. There's a bunch of criteria there, and you have to meet so many of them to be diagnosed with this. He has them all. And so in case anybody says, well, what do you do? And you can't diagnose anybody without seeing them. Yes, there is the Goldwater rule that came during Barry Goldwater's time, because there was psychiatrists, psychologists that put out a lot of stuff about him, and then they went on to say, not them, but him and his group of people, that's why he didn't win, because they painted him in such a bad light. And so that's where some of that came from, of you can't diagnose anybody without actually seeing them. And that includes a mental status exam, a big intake that takes about 3 hours. I've done thousands of them. And there's the other side of the coin, which is do no harm. That's the duty of anyone that's in the mental health field. It's the code of ethics, do no harm. Doctors have it too, physicians, nurses. Most helping professions have some kind of a do no harm ethical pronouncement that you have to swear to do if you're going to do that, because you can hurt people. So the do no harm has to do with danger to self or others. If somebody presents a danger to themselves, like they're suicidal, you have to call the cops. I've done it many times. And they have to go in. They go in for generally a 48-hour hold, sometimes 72-hour. And so that's into a psychiatric institution where they will be assessed to see if they are truly suicidal. And then the other is, do no harm, is you can't hurt anybody else. That's what he's doing. Millions of people. This whole country. Millions of people. And so that's why I'm doing this. Hey, I got the perfect opportunity. DK and I've been friends a while, and he says I'm his counselor, so he,
I need it.
he he's right there in the picture. I have to warn. I've done it for years. Can't help it. It's just part of who I am. I will tell the truth. I am a truth teller. I hate liars. I hate lies, ungodliness, uh, cheating, all kinds of cheating, whether it's physical cheating or just cheating people. I hate it. I despise it. So the seven deadly sins, I despise them too. And so, I've been called too harsh before by some people. Um, I don't believe in sugarcoating anything. I've never been a member of the Good Old Boys Club. I ran into some trouble in my practice with that with the county officials in court. Because they play games, and I'm not a game player. I'm telling you the exact truth, and this is it. Okay, so what I want to talk about now is I've, some of the characteristics of these personality disorders. As I said, you can look them up. But a narcissist, in a nutshell, believes that they're supreme. They're like narcissists that flew into the sun. I am so beautiful. I am smarter. I am, like him. I'm so intelligent. I just know more than anyone else about everything. And I'm richer, even if I'm not. So I am supreme to everyone. So why would I listen to anybody? I know all the answers. And I've always been that way. He was that way as a child too, with his childhood disorders. So there's no changing that. It doesn't matter what any of us say or do. He's not changing. So a narcissist is someone that believes they're superior to everyone else in every possible way. I saw a deal recently, a month or so ago, while he was talking about how good looking he was up there on the stage. And people tell me how good looking I am. Really? I just like, so it's out of reality. However, he's not delusional. He doesn't have a delusional disorder, I don't think. He knows what he's doing. And then the if we sociopath, antisocial, it's just so watered down. But that person, generally a male, is someone that has no conscience. I don't feel bad about anything I do. I could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and you'd still vote for me. It don't matter what I do. It's okay. I can break the Constitution. I can get rid of the Constitution. I can do Project 2025 and Trump 47, and he will. It does not matter. I want to be king of the world, and I'm suited for it, and you're all my subjects. And if you don't do what I want, I'll get rid of you. Even me. So we just got to be aware of what's going on, because that antisocial personality is so dangerous. That's serial killers. Ted Bundy and all those guys. That guy, I can't think of his name, that killed all the people 20 years ago and made lamps and things out of their skins. I think that was in New York, maybe. I can't remember for sure, but you cannot reason with him or anyone like him. And he's severe. He is Hitler. I said he was going to be Hitler to start with. Couldn't believe that anybody would vote for him, but people are ignorant of the fact. People are getting a little more educated on mental health now, but you can't expect people to know what you know if you're a mental health professional. You've dealt with it for years and years and years. The general population does not know. A lot of them are ignorant, and they don't want to know. They just believe what he says when he lies to them. That's another thing that an antisocial does constantly. You cannot believe anything they say. Projection. A lot of what he accuses Biden of, or anyone else, he's doing. America's doomed if he comes back, and I think he is. Okay, so if you want to know all of the characteristics, just look at Donald Trump. He's a poster child for both of these disorders. And as I said, there's no cure. There's no medication for this. There's things you can take for the depression and things like that that might help a little bit. And they do use cognitive behavioral therapy, which I've done many times. But that only works if the person wants it to and they want to change. And these guys don't want to change because they're right. Why would I change? You're the ones that are wrong, not me. Okay, now I want to talk a little bit about preparing. Let's see.
You're fine.
I still got 20 minutes. Yeah, I got to look at his clock. No, it says I got 15. I could talk for hours. So. Preparation. I think we've got to prepare. I've been preparing since Obama was the president. And I taught lots of clients to prepare. I don't know whether they did, but I talked to them about it. And by preparation, I mean mind, body, and spirit. Start with your spiritual preparation. Because if you don't have that, the fear and the anxiety, it will overtake you. You can't survive it on your own. And you need to be with like-minded people too. And you know what? Out here in the middle of Midwestern United States, in the middle of the country, there's very few people that do not support Trump. So it's hard to find people. We've got 2 or 3 around where we live in Nebraska, and our pastor is great, but most of the church that we go to, a lot of them are Trumpers. Our little town is full of Trumpers. I know of one other person in town besides us that isn't. So your spiritual part, get in the Word, read it for yourself. Don't take anybody's word for anything. Don't take my word for anything. Start reading. It's not hard. It's not hard to understand the Bible, but you got to be right with God first, or you'll never understand it. If you haven't, get down on your knees and pray. Get right with God, because things are only going to get a lot worse. So that's number 1, your spirituality. We won't make it without it. We have to have that. And you know what? This life we're living here is very short. Even if it's 100 years, it's very short. It's like a vapor, the Bible says. Flower of the field, here today and gone tomorrow. Eternity is forever. The rich man begged Father Abraham to send Lazarus back to tell his brothers about how terrible it was. And he said, Father Abraham said it wouldn't do any good. And it wouldn't have. But this is serious stuff. It's the most serious thing. I'm 76 now. This is the most serious thing I've ever been through. And I've been through a lot of really bad things. But this is the most serious, because really bad things are just around the corner that we can't even imagine here. None of us. Get right with God. So then number 2, I said mind, body, and spirit. Mind being very important too. The depression, anxiety. A lot of people are saying right now, people that I talk to, some of you guys, I'm so anxious. I don't know what to do. Fear. I don't know what's going to happen. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? You cannot stop this. So you have to have peace. You have peace through Christ. The peace that passes understanding. That's not an earthly peace. You can't find it here. So that fits right in with our spirituality, our mental health. I've been through horrible mental health. That's part of the reason that I became a counselor. So, spirituality, our mental health, our emotional health. You can have peace in the midst of all of this if you get right with God. You just have to get right with God. And then let Him lead you. Get in the Bible. Listen, listen, listen. You'd be surprised what that does to your mental health if you do that. a couple things about mental health since I've had major depression and generalized anxiety, which both would go totally along with all of this. I was talking last night about one of the things that I found that helped with generalized anxiety, and then I read it later, like 10 or 15 years ago, in a medical journal. If you have generalized anxiety, panic attacks, go somewhere cold. So if it's the summertime, get right in front of the refrigerator and open the door of the freezer. If you're in somewhere where the air is pretty cool, like in your house, blow a fan right on you. Stand in front of the air conditioner. If you can, if you're lucky enough to work in a restaurant or something, which I was many years ago, when I started having panic attacks, open that door and go in. Just don't lock yourself in. It'll be gone immediately. It just shuts off the electronic circuit in your brain to take that away. Immediately, it works. And it felt good when I read it. It's like, oh, I figured it out on my own. But guess what? This is what the big people are saying helps with this. And then major depression. A lot of us suffer from that, and I did. These disorders are totally curable. Totally. Yeah, it took a nasty antidepressant for me to get cured of it, and a lot of work, inside work, but I did. One of the things that helps is exercise. I think it's proven, and has been proven quite a long time ago, that vigorous exercise, continual exercise, you don't have to be doing jumping jacks or something, but walking, for instance, helps as much as an antidepressant for depression, because it gets those brain chemicals working right again, the endorphins in your brain. It puts them back synchronized for a while, at least, to where they're supposed to be. So do that. Exercise. If you're having anxiety, besides changing your thought, we have a technique called thought stopping that maybe some people have heard of, but I don't have time to go into all of this. But there are things that help. Antidepressants help if it's the right one. You've got to find the right one. Some of them don't work very well. Okay, now the physical part. I want to talk about that quite a bit, because what do we do when there's nothing in the grocery store? What do you do if you can't buy any gas? What do you do if you don't have any natural gas to heat your house? What do you do if you don't have any water? We live where it gets really hot and really cold, like 30 below zero sometimes. Snowstorms, blizzards, 100 plus degrees. What do you do? Well, if your electricity goes off and you have nothing, how are you going to stay warm? Because a lot of your natural gas takes electricity to start your furnace. The water, if your town water is not working, or you don't have electricity and you're on the farm out in the country, you don't have any water, you can't pump it. And if you have no food, because the grocery store doesn't have any, just like we had a little bit with COVID, what are you going to do? I'll tell you what's going to happen, because there's going to be millions of people in that situation. They'll be robbing the people that do. They'll be killing people. Think about some of these movies that we've seen for years of it showing these disasters that were going on. That's the way it's going to be. Chaos. People going in, breaking into other people's houses, stealing from them. They'll steal from the stores until they're bare. I don't blame them as far as doing that, because they're hungry, and people will do anything to feed their kids and themselves. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the basic needs: housing, food, and water. That's the bottom of the pyramid. That's what it takes to live, to survive. You got to have shelter, you got to have food and clothing. That's it. And so those things will be gone. You might have a house, but what if it's 20 below zero, or even zero, or even 20 degrees, and you have no heat? What are you going to do? So I said before, I've been preparing for many years, and by that, yeah, I've been preparing spiritually, but I've been doing that for a lot longer than that. Um, been trying to physically do the things that are important, but I've also been, I don't call it hoarding, but some people would. I have been preparing. I have 2 rooms that have a lot. We probably have 5 years worth of food. I've canned. I have a lot of canned meat. You need a pressure cooker. Got to have that for that. You can't open kettle meat. And you can grow big gardens. We've always done that until recently. When things are on sale, stock up on canned food. They now have a little vacuum thing that you put your dry stuff in, like spaghetti or noodles or flour or pancake mix, anything dry, pancake mix, anything. Put it in there, and you put this little deal on top and push the button, and it vacuum seals it. And you can use that lid. It's just regular jars and regular lids. I like wide mouth, so that's what I use. I have lots of wide mouth jars. It's just easier to get stuff in and out, even with just regular canning. I use wide mouth. But put it in there, put this deal over the top, you push the button, it's a battery thing, and you have to recharge it every now and then, but not very often. And about 45 seconds, and it's got a little counter on the top. It tells you when it's done. And those lids are sealed. I've tried. So I've got a lot of that now, because not only do you not have to worry about getting bugs in your dry stuff like it will get eventually if you just got it, like cake mixes or something, but it won't get old. You know how stuff tastes when it's stale, and you wouldn't want to eat it. But I've told my kids, because they all know what I do. Um, if you were really hungry, you'd eat this stuff, even if it didn't taste quite the way you wanted it to taste. But that doesn't happen with the jars that I'm talking about. So I am doing a lot of that now. And I just started that 2 or 3 months ago. But I've got probably 40, 50 quart wide mouth jars of things like rice, lasagna noodles, spaghetti, macaroni, stuff like that. I haven't got any flour in any of them yet, but I'm going to. And I'll probably put some pancake mix in some too. But the other stuff, like matches, and we we have a lot. I make candles in the wintertime. So I have all the supplies to do that with, all the wicks and the little holder things for the bottom to go the wicks in, and different flavors. You like the smells and the different colors and stuff, and all the wax. And I have hundreds of candle holders. And it works well for me because we heat with a wood stove. We have wood. You need to have some way to stay warm. And I I just put it up on top in a kettle and put it in the empty candle holder. They're glass, and shave. They're already shaved off. Put the wick in the bottom. Do the whole thing the way it goes. Put the color in that I want and the flavor in. Although you don't have to have that to survive, but you need light. So it melts, and then it's done. Take it off the stove and do some more. Things like that. People don't think about that. Also, another thing that we have for light is we have a bunch of, like, the old kerosene lanterns, if you want to call them that, that's set on the base with the little chimney thing on them. We have quite a few of those. And we have the fuel for them. Buy a bunch of that fuel. It does not cost very much. Have some lighters, the big long lighter to so you can start a fire in case you'd run out of matches, but have a lot of matches. There's so many things. Batteries. Just go to the grocery store or whatever store you're going to. Menards, which is a great big, it's like Lowe's and kind of that sort of a store, only it has a lot more lumber. Just start walking up and down the aisles and looking at, okay, this won't wear out. We need some of this. And get yourself a supply. DK says 30 days. I'm not of that mind. I think it's going to be longer than that. But I do think that the rapture is going to be coming a lot sooner than what people think, because it's going to be hell on earth here. So I hope I'm explaining this preparation thing good enough. It's not just food. Prepare with food. Have a regular old can opener that doesn't need electricity. Think about, what do I do if I have no electricity, I have no water? Water. Need to supply water. Get water. Some form of heat. I also think you need some way to protect yourself. Guns and ammunition. Although if it gets real bad, that won't even do us any good because they'll overwhelm us. But for the guy trying to break into your house, yes. And hopefully you're not like us and our dogs, our two German Shepherds that are not attack dogs, and they're the world's friendliest dogs and probably wouldn't do anything. It'd be nice to have a guard dog. Our dogs will let us know if somebody's out there, though. Another thing we have is cameras outside. So we can see if somebody, we got a camera on each one of our doors. You can see if somebody's coming up, even up to your house. We also have privacy fence around everything but our front door. So I think that's a good idea. I'd have to climb over the 6-foot fence at least to get in. Have water, like I said. You cannot live without water. You got to have some way to have water. Make a deal with someone. Is my time up?
Look at that timer.
It says 32 minutes. Did I have, but it was supposed to be up at, yeah, I got 5 more minutes. I'm almost done because I have to be. I could talk all day, like I said.
You're good.
Okay, so spiritual, mental, physical. The physical, again, whatever you can think of, just start supplying yourself with some food, extra food, and wood, or if you have a wood stove, or if you can get one, that's great, but you got to have a chimney so you don't burn your house down, or propane or something. Natural gas I don't think is good because they can cut that off too. Propane's a lot better. We have 1,000 gallons of propane at all times, unless we just haven't got it filled up yet. So think about what it costs to live, what it, I mean costs you. I'm not talking money cost. I mean the cost to you, physically, spiritually, and mentally. Prepare as much as you can, but again, most importantly, prepare your heart.
Yes.
Jesus is coming, and guess what? He don't give people a second chance after then.
That's right.
That's the way it's going to be. And nothing here is worth dying or living for a mentally ill con man. There's no patriotism in this. This is totally against everything we ever knew. He's going to be a total autocrat. He's going to be a total dictator. All the people, the Trump people that think it's going to be great, they're going to be just like everybody else. Nothing. He laughs at them more than he does us. I can say that because I've been around a lot of these guys. I know how they think because I've had him for clients, and he's the worst one I've ever seen. So let me say a little prayer for you, and then I got to go because he's telling me my time is up, and it is. I got like 2 minutes left. Dear Lord, I really do thank you for this opportunity, even though I've never done this like this before. But I thank you, and I praise your holy name because you're with us every second of our lives. You will never leave us or forsake us. You walk with us every step until we get back to you, and then you'll be with us forever. And I I thank you for that. I praise you for the joy that you give us, even in the midst of all of this despair and what's actually coming that's going to be so much worse. But we don't have to be afraid. Even Daniel in the lion's den, you walked with him. And so I just pray for anybody and everyone that happens to see this little video, that you speak to them, that they prepare mentally, physically, and spiritually. And I pray that anybody that's willing to listen, that doesn't know the truth about the beast, Donald Trump, and I do think he is the Antichrist beast, will open their hearts to the truth, and they'll dig into it and look for themselves. Look back into his history. Look what he's really saying and doing right now. Look what's going on. And that they'll open their Bibles and dig into your word. I love you, Lord. I thank you and I praise you. In your holy, precious name that's above every name, King of Kings. Amen. Now what do I do?
Excellent. That was excellent.
How do I turn it off?
I'll do it.
Okay.
Excuse me, Dr. K, butting in, being the.
That's okay. You have to. I don't know what to do.
I'm not sure I do either. There it is.
Okay.
Hold on.
Well-
hold on.
Oh.
I'll see you guys in a bit.